Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, and welcome to another episode of Media Matters for Anfield Index. The fog rolled into Anfield last night, didn't it? But Leicester rolled out with absolutely nothing to show, and nor did they deserve anything either. The Reds are 7 points clear, and even now there's still contract talks and all sorts of things to discuss. But here to join me as ever to go over it all is the renowned and the respected David Lynch. I mean, David, just to set the scene, because I was even messaging you tonight when obviously things were being suggested online, etc. It was foggy, but it wasn't like typhoon stuff. It was just foggy, wasn't it? Underlined.
Yeah, it was never kind of. It was, I saw the report that came out. Obviously, the suggestion that there was, there was a threat of the game being called off or whatever, and sort of immediately checked that, and that apparently was never the case. That was kind of firmly shut down for me. That there was no kind of pitch inspection or anything like that. There was never a feeling around the ground that there was a threat of the game being called off. And when I got there, obviously, standing outside Anfield, so I get there about 3 hours before kickoff, and it was pretty poor visibility in and around the ground, in fairness, but nothing I've seen worse, definitely. And then you get inside the ground and you look at kind of under the floodlights what it looked like. You could quite easily see the other side of the pitch. Obviously, with the height of the stands these days, the fog's got to kind of come over and in and drop down. So it just was never that bad, and it never looked like it was really at risk. So I'm not really sure where that suggestion came from, but it wasn't ever accurate. And yeah, the game was played with absolutely no issues, thankfully, because Liverpool could have done without, losing another game there, and having 2 games in hand wouldn't have been the best. So yeah, glad they got it on. And as I say, never really felt like there was an actual risk there.
Yeah, it didn't feel like there was any risk. And weirdly, in this game, where, and I don't know if it was just because of the way it all played out, it wasn't vintage Liverpool. It wasn't a statement performance like the Spurs game the other week, but victory was still routine. Was it almost because of the way we conceded that early goal? Do you think it just felt a little bit different this time?
Yeah, that's it. And I think because they go behind early and it takes a while to get back to 2-1, and then even then, 3-1 only comes kind of late in last 10 minutes of normal time anyway. So maybe kind of in the game doesn't feel as comfortable as it was, but then you look back at the kind of numbers and then just have a think about, the kind of game you actually saw. The fact is, it was never really in doubt, was it? I mean, Liverpool give up a single shot on target and it finds the back of the net. So that's kind of, it's not great around the goal. I'm sure the manager will want to look at that, but also sometimes just a bit of luck, a bit of variance. It feels like a lot of kind of Liverpool are conceding off low XG chances at the moment. That's happened fairly frequently, and it's something they'll want to stamp out. But it kind of makes you feel worse, especially when you concede in the 6th minute. But yeah, they were just pretty dominant, really. They didn't give Leicester a sniff after that. As I say, no more shots on target. I think they only have 4 more shots in total at all. Don't really get close, and Liverpool themselves were just creating chance after chance, particularly in the second half, when I thought they were excellent, in terms of opening Leicester up. And, if you score 3 goals, you hit the post, you hit the crossbar, and you have a goal ruled out for an offside as well, then you've probably pretty much battered the opposition. And that was the case. And on a different day, it could have been a lot more comfortable than it felt maybe in the game, but it actually was probably comfortable anyway.
Yeah, it did feel overall. It just felt a bit, I suppose, because of going behind early, a bit different than normal, although maybe going behind early isn't all that common. The thing I did want to ask you about the first half, was it pointed to you the tactic that did be get it wide and cross it? Almost, it did feel like it was a bit of a change from what we see normally. We just seemed to want to get the ball into the box as often as we could in the first half, and it just seemed a bit unusual almost.
Yeah, I'm not so sure really that was an instruction from the manager. I don't think that the player's been told to do that. I think it was a case of they were finding Leicester in a very, very low block, and a lot of the spaces they were able to find and get themselves into were in the kind of a deep position, kind of wide right. Trent was being given a lot of space to sling them in from deep, and obviously we know that can be a route to goal for Liverpool. It can work, but obviously Leicester were defending that pretty well and kind of seemed happy as a tactic themselves to invite Liverpool to do that. So it wasn't really working. I think I also wonder whether the fact that Liverpool make a chance after about a minute where Gakpo swings in a cross and Salah almost turns it home, and that makes them think, okay, this is the way we can get at them. But obviously, we were trying it too much. I think it's 30-odd crosses in the first half, maybe 33 crosses, which I think is more than they'd had in any match under Arne Slot, full stop. So they were leaning on that tactic too much. And I think it was quite clear that they'd been told at halftime to just not to necessarily stop crossing the ball, because they were still crossing the ball and they actually get a goal from one of those, but to cross in a different way, to create triangles on the outside, to make sure you can create pullbacks, or you can create a pull across the box. And I mean, Núñez misses a chance straight after half time where he blasts it over, where again, it's a triangle out wide. They get it in for Gravenberch. He pulls it back and Núñez is there. And immediately you thought, that's much better. That is exactly what they need to be doing. Obviously, doesn't hit the back of the net in that instance, but then very soon after, kind of similar move, Curtis Jones is there to tap it in. And yeah, I thought Liverpool much better in terms of being incisive in the second half, and they still had the chances in the first half as well. So yeah, it's one of those elements of the performance. I think the manager will think, wasn't exactly delighted with the attacking aspects, and they could have done better there. But I think overall, in the weight of the performance, they created enough and deserved to win it.
Yeah, you do wonder what he'll sort of ask them about this week. I mean, one thing you won't be picking up on, all three goals were absolutely brilliant in very different ways. Which one was your pick of the three? Because there's a team goal, there's individual efforts. Which one stood out for you?
Tough, really. All, as you say, three really likeable goals. I mean, I quite like Salah's goal in terms of just that he kind of passes it in the way he does. It didn't seem on, and that he doesn't actually put that much power behind it, but because the precision is there, that just kind of kisses in really nicely. So I think maybe that's my favourite. But as you say, all three really good goals. I love the way that it was kind of the persistence around the second goal and the way it's well worked around the box. And then obviously Gakpo's just a trademark finish, isn't it? And he's playing well at the moment. So yeah, going really well. And all three goals enjoyable for very different reasons.
Yeah, if we keep scoring blockbusters like that, it'll be well worth it. And out of all the players we talk about as ever, there is really one place to start and one man to start with at the same time. This almost reminds me of when I was sort of 10 or 11. I used to play Championship Manager. And if I wasn't winning, I'd quite often cheat, Control-Alt-Delete and reset to get the figures and the numbers that you wanted. Mo Salah is cheat code numbers. And I mean, even today, as someone identified, 3 more records that he's broken. By the way, all 3 of which are his own at the same time as well. That 10 goals or assists in 10 consecutive games. I mean, we're almost just never going to do justice to what we're seeing with Mo Salah at the moment, are we? He's just that brilliant.
I just don't think you can say anything else, but he's the best player in the world at the moment, and he's consistently proven that is the case. There is no one else out there at the moment playing football at such a high level as to be able to impact games. And I mean, he does it in literally every game. This is the thing; it's the big games, the smaller games. He'll come up with a goal or an assist, and just when you think he's going to maybe miss out on getting one of those, he pops up at the end to seal it. And I mean, that goal yesterday is okay. It's against Leicester. It's at Anfield, and it's 3-1. So it's kind of, but it seals the game, doesn't it? It's absolutely crucial. Leicester could have a lucky bounce as much as they'd struggled to create opportunities after their goal early doors. You're at the victim of a bit of bad luck in that moment when it's 2-1, but he makes it 3-1. It's crucial, and it's an absolutely brilliant finish. And I thought loads of what he did yesterday was absolutely brilliant. Goes close to scoring early, hits the crossbar, and forces one onto the roof of the net as well. So he's just, that's it. Like I say, you cannot say more than he's the best player in the world at the moment. And I'd be interested to see who anybody else would argue is ahead of him, because I just don't think it can be argued.
No, absolutely streaks ahead of anything we're seeing at the moment. And on for the Golden Boot again, top of the assist chart. The stats are just unbelievable. And another player that, I don't know, maybe he's enjoyed a bit of a break recently. Maybe that enforced break has actually worked quite well for Alexis McAllister, because see a lot of his stats from last night as well. He was really influential in this one, though, wasn't he? A really good performance.
Yeah, I just liked how kind of busy he was. Like he worked his socks off. Really seemed it. He's involved in I think 16 duels, which just shows how kind of in and amongst it he was. And he didn't win every one. I think he wins about half. But he's just there to get in front to kind of run at Leicester and kind of make sure that their midfielders are rushed constantly. And then he has got that composure then on the ball and obviously 2 assists that he gets. He's always trying to impact things in the final third as well. And it's important that he does that in games like this as well, where you've got a really deep block. There's a lot of kind of pressure on him or onus on him to get into those forward areas and try and make the extra man or just try and find that little cute pass through the line. So, yeah, really liked a lot of that. And as you say, I think the break has done him good because I think he's been a player he's played an awful lot of football over the last 12 months or so. So having that little 2-match break where he got to go on holiday, almost, kind of a little summer break of his own there, that, it will only do him good. And that's important because Liverpool are going to need him now going forward. And it's going to be really busy between now and May. So, yeah, great to see him looking fresh and looking good.
Yeah, and he'll definitely be needed, like you say. And almost the opposite, one player that's doing really well and in great form at the moment, Cody Gakpo. It's not a break, it's consecutive games. It said 10 goal contributions in his last 20 games. With Gakpo's goal last night, is there an element of teams know he's going to cut in? They know what he's going to do. Stopping it is just a different thing altogether, though.
Yeah, I mean, there's been so many players like that in that that's the way he favours to go. But he can go on the outside, and if you give him that whole outside, he is able to stand one up on his left foot or drill one across. He's not kind of one of those we'd say his left foot's just for standing on. So he can go on the outside. And the fact is, if you just leave him to do that, you're giving him too much space. So that little bit of doubt you can put in the mind gives him the space to kind of run in on his right. And then again, he's got options when he does that as well. It's not just a case of kind of running in and getting a shot off, although he's absolutely brilliant at that. We saw another of those last night. It's that he can clip the little floated cross in for a header or Salah at the back stick like we saw yesterday early doors. So he's just been brilliant recently. And I think, 8 goals in his last 12 and is it 10 goal contributions in that run as well. It's unbelievable form, really. And it's given Arne Slot a lot to think about down that left-hand side. I mean, you just said a couple of months ago, I think we'd have both said that the kind of Luis Diaz is the nailed-on starter, will start the biggest games. Yeah. I think that's a conversation to be had now because Diaz has just had his little, not scoring quite as frequently recently, and Gakpo is just goal after goal after goal. And Gakpo as well, I think his off-the-ball work is really getting there. And he's also got that kind of physical back post presence as well to sort of, if the cross is overhit, he's there to head it back across. He's really powerful, can get up in the air. So much to like about his game. And Arne Slot is just really bringing the best out of him. And it's, a pleasure to see. And it's just another really good attacking option that Liverpool have got there.
I was going to ask you with all the attacking options and what we're seeing, and it's kind of skewed a bit because of how Diogo Jota's maybe just struggled with injury and obviously how long he's taken to come back. Is there still an argument right now that the strongest front three has Gakpo on the left and Diaz in the middle for you at all?
I still, I think Jota's there to be ready now, so I probably have to get him in, So for me, Jota is that starter at centre forward. I think he has to be, and I think he will actually be. By the way, in the coming games, I think that's what we're going to see now. And obviously, Salah is on the right hand side. That just makes it for me a straight shootout between Cody Gakpo and Luis Diaz. And I guess the manager, all he has got to do is just pick on form, pick who's playing the best in that moment. And in this moment, clearly that is Cody Gakpo. I think he's giving you everything you need down that side. So. Maybe he is the one who should be in there at the moment, but that will fluctuate. By the way, maybe moments between now and May that Jota's not in form, and so Diaz wants to go in that centre forward role, and maybe Gakpo will. This is a good patch for him, but maybe he'll have a little patch where it doesn't quite work out. But that's why you have 6 options up there and really good options, and you can rotate and change things up. And Nunez and Chiesa backing that up. It's it's a really really good position to be in as a manager. So. Yeah, it's it's tough. But I think if you were to play a game tomorrow, maybe I'd go with Gakpo, Jota, and Salah.
Interesting, yeah. And then as long as they stay in form and people, especially Mo Salah, just stay fit, things should work themselves out there realistically. And aside from what we've been talking about with the pitch, off the pitch, you know where we're going to be going with this. It's contract talk, isn't it? Because there's not long. Everyone knows it's the 1st of Jan that Liverpool's 3 big names can sign pre-contract agreements with overseas club. Now, if anyone missed this last night, we did just want to play you a short clip from Virgil van Dijk, taken from Amazon Prime, where the game was broadcast on last night. So it's only a short one, about 30 seconds. So let's just have a little listen to this one.
Find your relationship with Liverpool.
Love. I love the club loves me. I love the fans love me, and it's a very good foundation to be successful.
Liverpool is at their best right now, and Virgil also. He's a manager on the pitch. He has an aura, and I think that it's certainly in his mind to end his career over there.
In the list of priorities, where do you place for the Liverpool board re-signing Virgil?
Top.
Yeah, and an interesting one, just to snip it. I mean, let's be honest, David. If you love something, you stay. You don't walk out on it in 6 months' time. This felt like a kind of, not a pre-announcement, but something that just gave a little bit of, everyone's waiting now for something around Virgil, aren't they?
Yeah, and I just don't think, I've never at any point wavered on the fact he would stay, to be honest. I think it is coming, because I just think he's made so clear that he wants to stay. We know his demands are not outrageous. Liverpool want him to stay. They see that he's, again, he's one of the best defender in the world at the moment, an unbelievable captain and influence on and off the pitch. So everything is there for him to stay. These things take time, and like I've kind of reiterated constantly, I feel that kind of the fact it's got to this late point was already set in motion. There was nothing that could be done about that by the start of this season, because it was already too late for it not to get this later down the line, because these things take time. So it's, and yes, that's nightmarish, and I know it leads to some worry for people. But when you've got a player who's desperate to stay, and you've got a club that's desperate to keep him, and the money is probably going to be about right and not not overly tricky for them to get there, then I never really doubted that he would stay. And that, interviews like that just give you even more sort of belief that that's the case. So yeah, I think I think we are getting there. Wouldn't be shocked if he was the first to be announced, but I've said that before as well. So hopefully we get an update soon. But I expect it. I think Virgil van Dijk will stay. And I've always felt that, to be honest.
Yeah, fingers crossed we get something soon. And if we're going to jump on interviews, naturally, there was that one yesterday, just to snip it. But in case anyone missed it, at 1:30 today, the press conference was released. So it was under embargo. It was done just after the Leicester game, ahead of West Ham. Now, we're just going to give you a small snippet from this. It's literally what Arne Slot said when you probably guessed, yes, he was asked about the contract. So let's listen to what Arne Slot said about this.
I just asked this question because it's obviously your last home game before the 1st of January, when with the contract 3, things can happen from that date. Are you expecting anything momentous or significant to change from then or on that date?
If we would, then probably it's not the moment for me to tell you now. But in general, I don't talk about contract situations here. And it would be a surprise if I was the one to announce that one of them have extended. So I think that's in a different moment. But just, keep asking, because that's your job. But you're probably not going to get an answer from me. But it's clear that from the 1st of January, maybe for you guys, things change a lot. But they are in constant talks with the club, and let's wait and see what happens. As long as they keep performing like this, the manager or the head coach, I have to say, is happy with them.
Well, as he said, it would be a surprise if he was the one to announce it. Part of me thinks that's genius strategy for the Liverpool marketing team, but people have naturally jumped on this. And I even saw a brilliant tweet earlier where he said, if you look clearly, at one stage he has 3 fingers resting against his right arm to indicate that all 3 have renewed. So people are desperate to read certain things into this. David, did you take anything from this at all? There was almost and maybe we are jumping here, but a knowing smile. He seems quite relaxed about it all, though, doesn't he, still?
Yeah, he always has been relaxed, to be fair, when we've asked him about this. So, but I did think in his demeanour that, he really reiterated, didn't he, that this January 1st deadline that people are fussing over doesn't really mean much. And again, I know we've spoken about that a lot. It's a big thing in people's minds. But if you've got, particularly with Salah and Van Dijk, 2 players who are so obviously desperate to stay, then January 1st doesn't mean anything to them either, because clubs can start throwing money at them, but they want to play for Liverpool. They want to stay here. So it doesn't matter what's being thrown at them. It's just going to be, okay, this is what happens if I can't sort it out with Liverpool. But it's not going to tempt them away. They both want to stay. So, I understand why the manager's not concerned about that at all. And again, like I said, it was set into motion a long time ago that it was going to get this late, and that's unfortunate. But we're here now, and that's fine. And the plan is to kind of get it sorted out as soon as possible. And we hope it's ASAP. But like you said, look at the manager's demeanour there. So relaxed about it. He's not worried about it. And I guess if he's not worried about it, he sees, and knows a lot more about it than we do, then maybe we shouldn't be worried either.
Yeah, definitely nothing worrying Arne Slot at the moment, maybe bar a few defensive goals, which we'll talk about as well, because I know that you put this article out today that came out from yourself. It was an interesting one about Andy Robertson, and interesting the word looks mentioned. I wouldn't say Andy Robertson's a divisive figure, but very much he's come under scrutiny for his performances. And it was interesting, the phrase that on your tweet there, he's been at the scene of the crime for a lot of poor Liverpool moments. I mean, there's the question there, what should Arne Slot do about it? Is it managing him carefully for you? Is it a bit more rotation for Andy Robertson that's needed?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's absolutely key that you manage his games. One thing I want to reiterate as well around this piece is, if people don't subscribe, so they don't want to read it, that's absolutely fine, of course. But, I don't want anyone thinking I've gone in on Andy Robertson here, or, I really, he's been an unbelievable servant. And I also think he's had some very good games this season as well. I think people are too harsh and too quick to say, oh, it's completely finished, you can't get anything good out of him. I don't think that at all. And one thing I really underlining the piece, that I think he's been really unlucky, as I say, because you think about yesterday's goal. Yes, he turns the wrong way, but there's about 3 things that go wrong before it. The cross shouldn't be coming in that low. Virgil van Dijk maybe should cut it out. These things happen. It takes a deflection on the way in. It's Leicester's only shot on target, and it bloody goes in. You feel sorry for him in that sense.
Yeah.
And then, you think back to the Southampton penalty, possibly outside the box. The Fulham red card shouldn't actually have been a red card. All the ex-referees said the day after. So, and even the penalty against Real Madrid, I thought was remarkably soft. So, it just feels like he's not been his best, and I acknowledge that, but he's also been very unfortunate in moments. So I think we've got to be kind of calm about our assessment of him and not say he needs bombing out and it absolutely has to be that Liverpool make a signing in January. I'm totally relaxed about the idea of them using Tsimikas and Robertson to the end of the season and then having a look at that position. But the key fact there is they do have to use both of them. And for me, we've maybe not seen enough of Tsimikas since he's come back from his injury. Maybe yesterday would have been a really good game for him to keep Robertson fresh for the West Ham game, or maybe we're going to see now Tsimikas comes in for West Ham and then Robertson back in for United. That for me would be perfect, because I think, I mentioned this, that I think his best game so far this season was Aston Villa, and he missed the 2 games before that. Yeah. I don't think that's a coincidence. So I'm very, very keen to see that kind of rotation again consistently. And I think if you do that, you definitely get enough out of Tsimikas and Robertson to go on and win trophies this season, because we've already seen it up to this point this season. And then hopefully, as well as seeing slightly better performances from Robertson, we also see him get a bit luckier at times. That would be really nice. But I don't think it's as bad as some has made out, but also he's clearly not at quite his best, and hopefully a bit more rotation can solve that.
It's that classic quote from Napoleon, isn't it? Don't give me a good general, give me a lucky one type of thing. So maybe he just needs a bit of turn in his luck. and the rotation will help. And you did kind of mention it there, so it'd be wrong of me not to ask. I mean, I know you'd said in the article that the indications you're getting is nothing expected for a left-sided defender anytime soon. There doesn't seem to be much going on in terms of a midfield option that people are looking at. Is it just gearing up that most likely for you towards a quiet January more? I know this word opportunistic will come out, but literally that or very little.
No, I believe, the sources I speak to about the left-sided defender thing, because I think it's very much in keeping with how Liverpool operate. The idea of them going signing a third left back to sit there when they've got two who can rotate and Tsimikas is fit again. I can't see that. So I absolutely believe that is going to be the case. I think, sometimes you can get misled, but I don't believe that's the case in this instance. I don't think they will sign a left-sided defender. But in terms of midfield, I think it'd be foolish to rule anything out. We're not hearing anything at the moment, but things happen and they happen very quickly and names pop up out of nowhere. And as you say, if Liverpool see an opportunity, they will go for it. Whether that, as I say, whether that's kind of Zubimendi does become available and they think they can do that, they'll go and do it. If it's someone else that they've sourced since who they think that they can get in and do similar things, they will go and do it. It's just, and they've done some very, very good business in January in the past. So I would not rule it out or say it's going to be a quiet January at all. I just think we can, kind of hang in there and see what happens. But I don't expect that a left-sided defender will join. I'll say that at least.
Yeah, will be interesting to see if anything does unfold in the midfield situation. But before we get into January, we got West Ham away, the final game of 2024. Maybe interesting based on who got limited minutes, who didn't even get on actually yesterday. Are you expecting much rotation for this one?
Possibly not too much, I guess. I think there's a few obvious candidates maybe to come in there, but I think, because the games, it's not too bad, is it? 4 days, they're very kind of used to that, that level or that rhythm of games. So it's not too small a gap that you think, we'll have to completely change the team or anything like that. I mean, the absolute nightmare is that Szoboszlai came on for kind of 10 minutes yesterday and got a yellow card. Obviously, Arne Slot said in the post-match press conference that the idea was to rest him for this game so that he could come in against West Ham. And I think on that really big pitch away from home, he's so useful in games like that. So that is a bit of a nightmare. That's one of your rotational options gone. But, maybe that opens up an opportunity for Harvey Elliott, who we haven't seen a lot of this season. He surely is kind of ready now to come in and play some more minutes. So I wouldn't be against him coming in that attacking midfield role. You obviously have Diaz there ready to come in now. Diogo Jota's another one who I think is being ready to start this one. And then we'll start Manchester United as well. I think that's the position they've been trying to put him in. So, couple of and Tsimikas, of course, at left back to kind of rest Robertson, which I think would be a positive. So, quite a few good options there to bring in that you don't feel weak in anything or you're keeping a really strong 11 there. So, I don't necessarily think whole scale rotation, but I think, maybe 2 or 3, and maybe that's been bumped up a little bit by Szoboszlai as well. So, maybe a few changes, but not maybe 5 or 6. I don't think we're in that kind of fixture schedule at the moment to need that.
No, and in a good way, we got West Ham, who themselves had a few people go off injured in the first half. They've got a few suspensions as well. I mean, the one thing about the Christmas period people always forget, it does tend to favour the bigger teams, doesn't Champions League, etc., because those are the teams used to play in those 3 games in a week, whereas the lower or the mid-table teams, it's just completely out their wheelhouse. That's usually why we do well at this time of the year, isn't it?
Yeah, it's just the time where you kind of the strength of your squad is hugely tested. And the thing is Szoboszlai suspended for this one. Ibrahima Konate, Conor Bradley are both out. But you look what Liverpool are able to do in their absence. As I said, maybe Harvey Elliott comes in for a start here, or maybe they just go with the McAllister, Jones, Gravenberch midfield, which isn't bad at all. Or Tsimikas coming in at left back, an option there for Robertson. Joe Gomez starting at centre half in the absence of Ibrahima Konate. And then you look at kind of what West Ham are going to be able to do with no Soler, I believe, Souček's out, Rodriguez, Max Kilman. when you look at the 11 they put on the pitch, you're going to see that those are probably big blows. And that's not to say that they can't beat Liverpool. They're at home. They've got so much talent. Someone like Jarrod Bowen can just tear you apart on his own if he wants to. So, Liverpool's still got to be wary, but you're probably not going to be seeing the absolute best version of West Ham in that game. And that's obviously quite helpful for Liverpool. And as you say, is one of those things that does tend to happen over Christmas when the squads really get tested.
Yeah, will be interesting to see. And the final bit, as we always do, people, we move on to wider football. And hope some red, if they see him in a bar, do buy a pint for Harry Wilson, because he well and truly earned it. I was going to ask you this, David. Do you feel a bit vindicated? Because there was not a lot of people agreeing with you about Chelsea and the title challenge over the last few games. But I'm not sure there ever was a challenge, but they've looked ropey the last few games, and that Harry Wilson winner was brilliant yesterday, wasn't it?
Yeah, I just thought it was fair to have question marks over them as a young team that's, they conceded a lot of expected goals generally, and that always tends to get you. You cannot outrun that. It always catches up with you. So I just thought there was maybe a couple of bad results in the post, and I had a lot of tweets about it, kind of why are you disregarding Chelsea from the race? And don't get me wrong, if Liverpool's form dips and Chelsea continue to improve and they keep showing improvements, maybe they could get in the race. But for me, I still don't think they probably will be close to Liverpool at all. And I think the last couple of results have shown it, inability to break down that Everton side, and then following that up by being deservedly beaten by Fulham. Because again, you look at the expected goals from that, you watch the highlights of it and the chances that Fulham had. The times of the goals make it look like a smash and grab, but it kind of wasn't really. Fulham deserved it. So, I still think Chelsea have got a long way to go to be kind of title challengers, which, again, if you disregard them from the race, then you're kind of wondering who's actually going to chase Liverpool down, because a Saka-less Arsenal is probably going to, they're going to have some trouble coping without him. He's such an important player for them. And they're already, miles behind. So, just feels like a lot of things are coming together for Liverpool. But to be honest, even if they do and the season keeps going like this, and the teams that they face are missing their best players all the time, I won't feel that Liverpool have been lucky, because I've seen them get 90-odd points twice and not win the league by a single point. Yeah. So it's probably about time they got a little bit of luck and got an easy title win back, because they've absolutely deserved it over the last few years.
Yeah, according to rival fans, we're in that weird period where we've nearly played 19 games, but apparently not played anyone at the same time. So it's an interesting when you put those two factors together realistically, but there you go. And the only other thing I kind of wanted to sort of ask you about wider football, Pep Guardiola's been a fascinating figure in recent weeks, hasn't he? And then even yesterday, ahead of the game against Everton, he was there on Amazon Prime, and they were asking him about transfers. And I've never seen him almost be so open. And literally he said, yes, we need to do transfers. And then they asked him where, and he was like, defense, midfield, and just started throwing out names. And then even the way he said, my players have been asking me, are we going to sign players? Is that not just an ultimately strange tactic for any manager to come out with and say, my players want me to sign players to almost replace them? And we've got issues in position on position, especially for a team that spent so much money. Are the goings on at Manchester City just so strange and unheralded this season?
To be fair, I probably, I kind of sympathise with him taking that view. I remember a couple of seasons ago being sat in Jurgen Klopp's press conference, and he, was admitting during that terrible season that Liverpool had that, basically the solutions we're going to find are going to have to be in the market. It's quite clear that we can't get the performance level out of this squad. So it's just probably being honest, really. And I kind of don't mind that, because it'd be stupid to try and say that you can turn it around without doing business, because the legs of half of that team have gone simultaneously. You are going to have to replace them. So I totally get why that is the aim, and kind of why he's being so open about it and being honest, because it would be silly to do otherwise. But of course, what impact that can have in terms of who can they get in January? Are they good enough to give them a lift? They have to sign better, by the way, because you can't be signing players like Savinho, who has barely made any impact. You can't sign another Calvin Phillips. You can't sign another Gundogan, who's been terrible since returning. So you've got to make better decisions in terms of the recruitment. So And already the titles are kind of right off this season. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do in January and whether it can kind of turn things around for them. Hopefully it doesn't turn around too much, but we'll see. And I understand why Pep is kind of taking that approach.
Yeah, it is fascinating. I mean, we almost don't want to sound arrogant when we're saying this, but you can only be factual. Chelsea are now stumbling. They're 7 points behind us. We've got a game in hand. Arsenal are 6. We've got a game in hand. Oh, sorry, it's 9 now, isn't it? But Arsenal obviously playing tonight. Is it still Arsenal could really give us a challenge? And I don't want to sound arrogant when we're saying this, because obviously things can go wrong. But if it's anyone, is it them you're looking towards at the moment?
Yeah, definitely. Like I say, I've had question marks over Chelsea, and I still think they will persist over the remainder of the season. And they're already, as you say, if Liverpool win the game in hand, it's 10 points. That's an awful lot. That's very, very hard. And Chelsea have got, they haven't gone at even 2 points per game yet. So the idea that they suddenly start going at kind of 2.6 or something like that, it's just not going to happen. The only worry around Arsenal is the fact that, they can put that run together. I mean, the run in last season was absolutely outrageous, and they just get pipped by City. Quite unfortunate, very kind of Liverpool-like in that regard. But even with Arsenal, I'm kind of like, I see them as Liverpool's main rivals, definitely. And if Liverpool have a little wobble, maybe they're the best place to capitalise. But it's already 9 points as we're speaking now. They haven't got Bukayo Saka, who is so key to what they do in attack. They have no one even close to his level in forward areas, and they don't have him now till probably mid-March, maybe something like that. I just can't see how they don't drop more points or get close to going at the rate they did at the back end of last season without someone like Saka. And the fact is, by the time you've got him back, the gap could possibly be even bigger, because Liverpool, thankfully, and touch wood, they've got players coming back. The squad's looking good. They keep winning, and the lead is just so big that even with a wobble, they'd probably be able to get away with it. So, I don't want to say the title's won at this point. It wouldn't be that stupid. But it's looking pretty good, and it's going to be really tough for even Arsenal, who I think are the main threat, to get anywhere near challenging now without Bukayo Saka. So, it's looking good for Liverpool. I'll say that.
Yeah, I think that's a fair statement. People, if you can't be happy with what you're seeing and everything looking good right now, you never will be. So there we are, ladies and gents. 2 days after Christmas, 7 points clear. Can Ipswich do us a favour? It's highly unlikely. Does it matter? Maybe not too much. We'll have to see. But Liverpool are clear at the top of the Premier League. There is so much to like. And even conceding an early goal, it was a dominant performance yesterday. So all that leaves me to say as ever is, David, for the time, the insight and the analysis, it is much appreciated.
No, thanks for having me.
And ladies and gents, that was another Media Matters for Anfield Index.